Hey everyone, my name is Erica L. Ayala, representing Forbes Sports Money, and I am here with Tori Ortiz. Excuse me as I run into my microphone. We are here in the metaverse, Tori. ¿Qué pasó?
Yes. Hello, how are you?
I'm doing great. I am still getting acclimated here, but this is fun.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's just amazing to see what they've created, and I'm excited to see, everything with the opportunities for the metaverse in the future as well.
Okay, so let's get into it, Tori. You are an athlete at Oklahoma State University, track.
Yes.
You're originally from Illinois.
Yes.
And you are Puerto Rican, as am I. I'm half Puerto Rican, half Cuban, so got that.
Love it.
Yes. And as a part of Tercera Cultura, the whole idea is really to get the Latine community, as I would say, or Latinx community involved in innovative technology in the metaverse and really being there from the ground level. So that's where I want to eventually go with the conversation. But first, I want to get to know you a little bit.
Okay.
Who is Tori? How would you describe yourself?
I would describe myself as a very outgoing, hardworking, and open-minded individual.
I
Is
love that.
that's if I was to keep it as basic as that.
I think that's dope. And so being Puerto Rican is a part of your story and is a part of the culture that we want to bring in here. So what is it, what is Puerto Rican culture? How would you identify that from your vantage point?
For me, I really just take Puerto Rican culture as keeping kind of my family's roots and bringing it because I'm a third generation. So it's keeping my family's first generation culture and bringing it into the third and just continuing to pass that on. And we express our culture in a lot of ways. One of the things we do is we always have a traditional Puerto Rican family Christmas party every year. And we always eat a lot of Puerto Rican food. My papi rice, I will praise his rice until the day I die. It is amazing. But it's just continuing to bring it on no matter what generation you are. And that's how I really represent it.
I love that, and that is also a part of the tercera cultura, excuse me, which is that however many generations we might be removed from
Hmm.
the main island or country, that is that first aspect of the roots. And then it is, bringing that over in through the generations, literally in our cases,
Yes.
because I'm also a third generation, but then also more figuratively thinking of how do we blend across the generations, and technology is a huge part of that. And what we see today as just people in our society, but certainly as an athlete. And I want to get into that as well. But when you think of the opportunity, knowing where a lot of our grandparents came from, what they had, and what they believed was the promise of coming to the United States, how does that blend for the concept of tercera cultura for you and your family?
It's just really carrying on generations. And I take that into, because obviously being the first NIL athlete for them for this, I always date it back to my grandpa because that's kind of how I'm related to being a part of Team Puerto Rico when I bring it into sports. We had to go through a big process where we had to get his birth certificate and mine and just do all this to be able to just become part of Team Puerto Rico and be able to represent the Latino culture on the track and in my everyday life. And so it's taking things from the island and taking things from old family culture, old family history, and still continuing that into today and making sure, like I said, you don't forget your first roots. You don't forget the first generations, and you have to find ways to continue to pass that on and really just keeping the culture alive. And this whole metaverse and being able to even breaking it down into Colville's world and being able to see what she created just it's amazing because you really get insight into someone else's vision on the way they see their culture and the way that, they grew up or what it represents to them.
Yeah, and that's another opportunity in a way that technology can bring us there. There
Yes.
are more traditional ways. You started the conversation about food. We might continue to go down that road if we I mean, Puerto Ricans and our food, that's serious.
Man.
So I gotta get the menu for what I don't know. Do you usually celebrate on Christmas Day or on Christmas Eve?
We actually have it a couple of days before because now all the cousins and stuff
Oh,
are older, so we all come home from college at this point, and it's really just when everyone is in town. I have
I
different
love
family traditions when it comes to Christmas Eve and Christmas. So, but the Christmas party is always around like the 20th. It's always a few days. It's never more than 5 days or so before Christmas.
See, okay, this is another thing that people might not realize, particularly about Puerto Ricans. So, like the cousins, like first cousins alone can be like 50 some odd folk.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so that's the party. Like you weren't like, oh, like cute party. You meant party. You meant like a real big
Oh,
Christmas
we get
party.
together, we eat
Okay.
a lot of food, and we sing the 12 days of
Okay.
Christmas.
Okay. And then you said that's the second part though of Tercera Cultura is also that more intimate family. And it sounds like
Yes.
that's when you might do something just with the folks where you ain't gotta get dressed up. You just come downstairs in the pajamas and you're
Oh
good.
yeah. Yep. Yep.
Dope. Okay. But again, going back to the technology before I get off routed by food again. The opportunity a lot of times for us as Puerto Ricans or in the Latina community is to share that culture through food or through art, because that was something tangible, physical to pass along. And it's also a time that you're spending together in storytelling. When it comes to opportunities like what we have right here, in what ways do you think some of what is very natural for us growing up, hearing those stories, listening to certain music, having certain food, how do you think we can replicate some of that in now these new immersive worlds?
I think, well, when you storytell, you listen. And I think with the metaverse and all these worlds, you can literally put your stories to life, into image. And I think that's the biggest thing because when you sit and you're telling someone a story, they sit there and they imagine it. They come up with what something may look like, what something might taste like, just all that in their mind. And with the metaverse, you're able to really see what they were saying and you're able to really get a just different perspective and better understanding. And that's amazing because who would have thought technology would have just grown this big and given so many people so many different opportunities?
I love that you say that it's a part of listening, and I think that's such a critical aspect. But you also mentioned that you're the first athlete on NIL deal as a part of this, but you've also been storytelling and using your social media platforms to storytell as we see this advent of NIL. So excited for y'all. We ain't had that when I was playing, but that's all right.
It's great.
But I think of your family, and in looking at some of the storytelling that you've been able to do on your social media, I was really struck by this story that you told about surprising your aunt. I believe it was for her a birthday.
Oh my
Um,
goodness, yes.
and just tell me how important that immediate family is, that you found a way with your busy schedule with school and sports to make sure that you were there for an important birthday for your tia.
So she came and she surprised me for my 21st. I did not think, because she lives in Georgia, so I didn't think that I was going to be able to see her. And we got this big limo and we went and we stopped at everyone's houses and we picked everyone up. And when we got to my aunt's house and she popped up and I was like, oh my goodness, I started crying. And so when it became her 40th, we weren't really deep into track season. School was still very low key, just first few weeks getting started. I was like, why can't I be there? Like I can definitely be here. And I just think something that I'm very thankful for with NIL is that it does pay well. And so, just from payments from stuff like that, I was able to have the opportunity to purchase a last minute ticket. I mean, I purchased it with less than 24 hours and was on a plane and able to get there and surprise her. And she was so shocked. And it just made my heart melt to be able to give her the same feeling and the same sense of happiness that she gave me.
Wow, I love that story. And I'm glad I went back there and that you also mentioned NIL, because another thing a lot that we know from the Latina community is whether you're here in the United States or from wherever your family is originally from, one of the islands or a different country, being able to provide, being able to support, and
Yep.
utilizing whatever leverage we now have as the third generation and on, using that to then bring it right back. And the fact that you were able to do that as a college student, and have the means to do that through what we're seeing in technology, I think is critically important. Because I remember, listen, there were some Thanksgivings where I was like, you got to stay in North. I went to school in North Carolina. You got to stay in
Yeah.
North Carolina. There's no way I could get back to New York because we ain't had it.
Yeah.
We ain't got it. So I love that, and I think that that also is a part of what the series is about. How are we leveraging technology to then bring that back to our culture? We know we're always going to support each other, all our cousins, anyone that we have embraced
Mhm.
as our family, and it seems like you're doing that through your storytelling. So let's go now to how do you go about when you are, whether it's for brands, whether it's for fun and leveraging your own brand and style, what are some elements that you try to keep as a part of your brand and your storytelling on social media and with technology?
One thing I always try, and I'm just very keen on, is confidence. Like, you have to be confident in order to work with these brands and know your worth and know, what you're capable of doing. And another thing too is time management skills, because when you work with these brands, you have deliverables you need to produce and you need to make sure you're on time and stuff like that. I mean, even when it comes to these amazing meetings and stuff like that, I always try and make sure my technologies working the night before, so I don't get here and I don't have any run into any problems. And I always make sure everything's updated the night before. And it just, you really learn. I mean, it's just personality traits too. Like how I said, I'm hardworking and very open minded. Like I always think of, okay, if I don't do this tonight, this could go wrong tomorrow. And I don't ever want to put myself in a position for negativity. So it's really just confidence. And it also just opens up a new mindset. Like this whole Metaverse cultural series, like it's been amazing, and I sometimes I feel like I don't even have the words to describe how much it really means to me because how
Mhm.
welcoming it is. And just it's a safe place. I mean, like I said,
Mhm.
this world is very cruel. And when it comes to being a Latina and being a part of the Latina community, especially as an athlete, like we're not really recognized. And I think to find a way to incorporate all of that together and have a safe space where everyone feels welcomed and people feel like their voices are heard and you have opportunities to grow is really important, because some people feel like they get stuck when they're in a dark place or in a place where they're not welcomed, and it's hard to find ways to grow versus when you're in a place where it's welcoming and you have direction.
Wow, I love that. I want to put a pin in that and get back to that. But I also want to go back a little to your history personally with technology, because obviously, again, NIL has opened up. The metaverse is now something that's an option. But I did a little sleuthing, on the OSU website, and it sounds like, from what I've read, that you were part of an honor society that really embraced technology. Even looking at your major in sports science, I would imagine there's a lot of tech involved there. So, what was the hook for you? What really got you to be more curious about technology, and how have you parlayed that, thinking about us sitting here and having this conversation?
I just think it's opportunities. There's so many opportunities through technology, and it's always growing. Technology is not something that's going to go south. Like if you think of generations, like because I got my national technology for honor society for nursing, because I got my CNA when I was a senior in high school. So that's where that came from. And we would always talk about the baby boomer generation. Like you guys are going to be the next generation of nurses. The boomer generation is fading out. It's like generations do fade out and stuff like that. And so that's not technology. Technology is always growing, why some things are starting to fade away. And I think that's what made me so interested in technology was it feels limitless. You don't know where it's going, but you just know there's going to be a lot of opportunities that arise. And that's what's hooked me on it.
I love that. So it was nursing that got you into just the innovations of technology. And you mentioned safe spaces and that there are a lot of things that the Latina community faces, but I mean, I think you can see my air quotes here.
I
My
can.
air quotes. Okay, great. Make sure that tracking is working. Get the emphasis on the air quotes. But
The air quotes.
but systemically marginalized communities when it comes to health, and then technology, there are lots of gaps and ways that we're still trying to catch up, excuse me. And then culturally, because of the experiences that those gaps create, then it's culturally, if we say, stereotypically Greek culture, you pour some Windex on it. If you have a
Yeah.
cold, my Thea is like, you're not taking your echinacea. That's why you're sick. And I'm like, okay, there might be something more to it. I don't know, but but thinking about bringing it back to the culture, we've talked about your family, we've talked about, again, Tercera Cultura, and knowing what you know and what got you into technology. Again, bringing it back to the metaverse, what do you hope? And how can we continue to build on these safe spaces to eliminate some of the barriers to access, but then also have those listening sessions you were talking about earlier that
Mhm.
hopefully we can mitigate in, the real world when we're out physically, with each other, that we can mitigate some of the problem areas that our communities have because of the scarcity of technology or just being unfamiliar with technology.
I think it's finding a happy medium, learning to take technology in the real world and put them together. So, like I said, this is a safe place, and this is a place where people feel welcome, and it allows people to express whether it's their vision, their feelings, and stuff like that. In a place where you're not, obviously, like we're not in person, like this is all virtual and stuff like that. And if people learn to find comfort in this, I mean, we're having a conversation face to face, like it would make me feel just as comfortable if we really were face to face. And I think it's
Mm-hmm.
going to allow people to grow comfortableness within themselves and hopefully learn to just immerse worlds and immerse, cultures and generation. And that would be huge because we still have a very discriminative society. And I think to
Mm.
find a way to break that apart and make people feel more welcoming here and outside is just huge.
And so then what's next for you? What do you see as the vision? You have this opportunity as an NIL student athlete. You obviously have a curiosity and you are on the cutting edge of a lot of spaces now. How do you want to see that continue to build your professional and personal trajectory, and where does your culture come into that?
For my culture, I'll start with that. How I want it to play into that is I just want to continue to make everyone proud. Like I want to show take a community that's not really recognized and show them that I'm doing something big, you know, and really make a big statement. So I want to something that maybe felt like a whisper. I want to show them a way that I decided to yell. And that's just big for me. And so I want to be able to do something. And when people look back, like, oh, who is she? Where's she from? I'm from Puerto Rico. I'm Latina, like just have pride in who I am and where I come from and knowing that the generations and my culture and everything is the spark to my fire. The just, my motivation. And I really want to find a way for me, I want to be top. I love to work to be the best of the best. So when it comes to NIL, I want to be one of the top ranked people with NIL, with deals. And then when it comes to the series and the metaverse and everything, I want to find a way that I make a difference. I want to find a way that I help people feel welcomed, or people look back and be, oh, Tori got me into this, or Tori helped me feel comfortable with this, or she really opened my eyes to this. It's really all about starting your culture and using that as kind of your fire, as your spark, and taking that motivation and turning it into something big, and always having pride of knowing where you came from, and to continue to make your family proud, your people proud, and then also just be an inspiration. That's really my big goal. I just want to be an inspiration because I'm on the right path and I know that, and I'm going to continue to take the steps that I need to get there, and I would love to help other people along the way.
And hearing you speak, I initially wanted to ask you about coming to Oklahoma from Illinois, which, as someone who came to Oklahoma from New York, I think we can say that it's a little different. It's a little different.
Very different.
But I think the bigger question that I'd like to ask in hearing what you just said is, um, I get the sense that not only do you want to be on top, which is what you just said, and you're competitive, you have that competitive edge in everything that you do. But I get the sense that you also, beyond just the the competition of it all, there's something that you enjoy about a challenge, about something new, about breaking new ground. Where does that come from? Who do you think, who are the people that instilled that? I'm like beeping. I don't know what's happening.
I'm actually an only child. So I have always, yes, I've grown up with family, but I've also always fended for myself. And I think that that's something that has inspired me, that has taught me to grow and to really learn things. Because when I came to Oklahoma, I had never been away from anything. I was born and raised in Illinois for 20 years of my life. And I just packed up my car and my cat and I drove to Oklahoma, and it forced me to grow. It forced me to grow. It forced me to understand that the only thing I really have right now is myself. It wasn't like when I was at Illinois State that I can just get in the car if I'm having a bad day and I can drive 2 hours home. I am a 12-hour drive from home now. I can't just do that. I found ways to find comfort in things and how to sort things out and how to get through hardships and really find a new strength in myself. And I think just really that movement and just being put in a position, because I hated being alone. Before that, I was terrible at it. It forced me to become comfortable with something I was uncomfortable with. And I think that's something that has really sparked me to just always kind of want to be on top and push for new things and just be someone who craves new opportunities.
I believe that you've given a lot of people some things to think about when it comes to their own story and bridging those generational gaps. I certainly have enjoyed speaking to you. I think your social media is hilarious, but getting the story behind that, it just enriches who you are so much. So I'm so grateful for
Yeah.
your time today.
Thank you so much, Erica, for everything. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, and all right. Last thing actually before we go, what are you contributing to the big party, and then what's Christmas Eve gonna look like for the family? Because you can't leave me without some food.
The big party, I never bring food, but I always bring gifts. And the gifts are small, but we have media day here at the university. Um, so whether it's just like media day pictures of like me growing up, I print them out and bring that. And then to my Christmas party, when we have our Christmas Eve tradition on my dad's side, I love to bring my grandma flowers. They make her smile. They
Oh,
make her smile. So I love to do something like that, or whether it's just a game. We always play games. And then Christmas morning, it's just being there. Like
yeah.
my grandma will never let me bring anything. She's just so happy when I'm always home
Oh,
all the time, all the time. So I love my
I
family. They
bet.
are my heart and
Oh,
soul.
I love that. And yes, my father, he passed, but he loved
Oh,
getting flowers. He got that from his mama too. So that's beautiful.
oh.
Well, all right. I will let you go with that. But thanks again and best of
Thank you
luck
so
to
much.
you and everything. I look forward to
Thank
hearing more
you.
about your endeavors.